I will say, if you want a good White House anecdote to close this out, and if you want to put the thing in the beginning, at the end, that should be maybe this would even suit the bill, and you can get rid of the Holland thing or whatever you want to do. But the only two times I ever had to have my footage reviewed by authorities, I won't say which authorities because they're different authorities, at the White House was because of two acts of criminality. One was the Slahis. You remember them?
Mm.
They were reality TV stars, Real
Oh yeah,
Housewives of DC, Virginia, DC,
yeah.
and they talked their way into the state dinner, the Indian state dinner, and all of our footage and photos had to
Wow.
reviewed to see exactly
Yeah,
who they talked to, who they didn't talk to. The answer, I think, turned out to be Biden. Like they got as far up as Biden, which is pretty high up. He was vice
yeah.
president, but not up to Obama. And then the other one was vegetables were disappearing from the garden, and I had set up a time lapse camera that was always constantly
Was it the
clicking
gopher?
away, and they caught whatever it was: weasel, marmot, gopher, mongoose. It was something, but they
Wow.
got they got the glow, they got the eyes. It was like we got you, yeah. And then it also turned out we'd gotten the president on that camera a couple times down there, which meant that then those photos had to be processed through a different, legal thing.
Was he just
This
going to get a
president,
snack?
he was just probably showing people down there or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, no, he was great. He was the one who was stealing the vegetables. Yeah, yeah, that would totally be
It was
him too.
President Obama
Like
all along.
President Obama's criminality would be stealing vegetables. You know what I mean? That would 100% be it.
This is Ben Franklin, welcoming you to the forecast, where we light a candle rather than curse the darkness. Each week, we highlight the people proving that progress isn't just possible, but necessary. As Poor Richard said, energy and persistence conquer all things. Now, let's get to work.
Welcome back to the forecast. A man who needs no introduction, you may guess who this is, the infamous Arun Chaudhary, my good friend, former conspirator, is joining
Thank
us
you
today.
for having me on. Thank you for having me on.
Big news this week. There's no longer an East Wing or East Colonnade for the White House. Obviously, for our listeners who don't know, Arun spent a lot of time filming all along the White House as the first official videographer for Barack Obama back in the golden days.
Oh yeah, East Wing, West Wing, yeah, for sure.
All over. You had a show called West Wing Week. Did you ever think about shooting a show called East Wing Week?
I think as a joke once, like had one because I was traveling with the First Lady, and then that became a more serious thing when other people would do it called Travels with the First Lady. But though, to do the job I did, which was to sort of give this White House diary, video diary, every week, you had to know what was going on a bit. And so, I can give you my view of the East Wing,
Please. I
which,
love your
as
view
I
of the East
think
Wing.
you were about to say, it's being demolished by Donald Trump. Maybe you did say,
It's
maybe
all
you were about
gone.
to say, I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already gone, which is pretty quick. And I have two sort of contrary feelings about it. But just first, like sort of every day you go on like an intel mission if you're not like traveling with the president to find out like what's really going on. They're going to plant a tree or something that's going to be interesting. And I would stop at various people's desks, usually, especially lower staff people who would have the time and let you know what was going on. The East Wing was a particularly good stop to hit the social office, where I would always stop and say hello to Samantha Tubman, who was the assistant social secretary in the years that I was there, and also was a good friend from the campaign, and would have a good insight at what was going on. And then there was like the room where like the folks who give the tours and stuff all hung out in, and that was definitely a good place because there were always cycling people in and out, and they would know if maybe a VIP was coming in, and you could get a quick shot of that. That might be interesting. Here comes Prince Charles or whatever the crap is, and
He's the king now, I think.
yeah, yeah. And so it was a good source of things like that. But I will say, and I've been outspoken about this, about the West Wing too. And I've even written about sort of what an ugly place it is, where the lamps match and the rug looks like it was stolen from a Marriott in like 1983 or something. The East Wing is actually sort of a step down from that in some ways. It really is sort of it has the least pleasant bathroom. I have actually a very interesting core where I review all of the bathrooms all around the White House, because not only did I work there, but I have a colon condition, and so I was someone
Yeah.
who would frequently visit many of the bathrooms. And this one was not my favorite, but uh, it's just the most utilitarian of it. There are parts of it that are kind of nice. Like there's, I think it's called the family waiting room instead of like the West Wing waiting room. It's like the waiting room on the East Wing. It's actually quite nice and old and has like, portraits of, first ladies and presidents and all this kind of crud in there. That's pretty nice. But generally, it was just a bunch of offices. I remember one of the things, and it saddens me that it's been totally trashed, because you do want to take care that things were preserved. But if you were going to expand part of the White House, that would be the part of the White House that you would expand. But this is so quick, I don't think that probably took measure of much. I'm just even thinking now, like in my head, I'm giving people a tour as I'm coming in. I think one of the interesting things was that a lot of the East Wing was finished in the 40s during the war.
Hmm.
And so the seals of the United States, during times of war, the eagle is facing the arrows
Yeah.
as opposed to the olive branches. And so that's the only place where you'll see the eagles facing the arrows, like on an actual official seal on the White House and stuff like that. And I do hope that some care was taken with that. I will say, like, state dinners and these things are in these weird tents, that I think is really bad for the lawn generally. Like, it does seem to be like there is a problem that is being solved here in a way, but just like in a crappy Trumpy way that makes everybody feel bad about it. Like it's just like, don't know if any historical preservation was done, have no idea who's approving what these new models will look like. And we
Yeah.
know that, he's kind of rococo in his architecture
Well, I mean, he's like, he
inclinations.
said point blank, it's not gonna, they're not gonna touch the existing structure, which didn't make any sense at the time, right? Like, because there are all these different drawings that were put out, and none of them really, like, it was like,
No, I wonder if that means like the colonnade of that is still okay, and like the movie theater and stuff. I don't know. I'm looking
Supposedly the
from
movie
over
theater's
here, but
gone. Like, from what I've seen, they have gone all the way. Like, the East Colonnade is completely gone. The
yeah,
East
that's
Wing's
pretty
completely
terrible.
gone.
It's pretty terrible.
All of that has just been ripped out. And there was a White House Preservation Society, like, put out some statement on, like, they preserved everything, and
They've
digitized everything, like,
recreated the
yeah,
like movie theater inside.
yeah.
You can.
So
Yeah.
they claim they did something, but who knows? I mean,
I'm surprised
like,
Trump doesn't use the movie theater. Seems like he would like it,
does the man watch movies? I think he just watches,
but you can
like,
watch TV on it.
Newsmax. Oh yeah, huh. That's a good question. I wonder if he's ever, like, watched Newsmax, had like a Newsmax party
Yeah, maybe not.
I'm gonna look that up. Actually, that's a good point. But I mean, like, I just don't. I mean, who knows what they're actually building? 90,000 square feet ballroom doesn't make any sense. Like, I was reading this thing that, like,
No,
that would
I mean
be.
maybe not. I haven't read the exact things, but like sometimes when people rush on it, you're like, well, there is a need for something like that because these tents that they erect and take down don't totally make sense. You don't want the president moving around for a lot of these things. Having to be able to get in and out of these kinds of things quickly is what the name of the house is all about in the end.
Well, and
And
they're
there
clearly
probably would have
doing.
been a way to make it that wasn't so horrible. And I'm just imagining it's horrible. I don't know it's horrible, but I'm guessing it's horrible. But where there are even like, nice offices that are put around things and stuff. So like, the East Wing becomes maybe more clustered around this ballroom as sort of this main institution that's over there. But still, like a hotel or whatever, there's like the proper places where you have your work
Mhm.
offices that are good and maybe even better than they were before, which was not particularly.
You've seen how they redid the Oval
The
Office, right?
military dudes were over there too. The White House military office was over. It used to be over in the East Wing, and so like the guys who hold the football, the
Yeah.
military aides, they were
Mhm.
all shoved into one little office over there. I remember they all
I wonder
kind
where
of
they're putting
shared
them
it.
now.
Yeah, I don't
Did you
know.
you saw how they redesigned the Oval Office, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
all
Well, I
the
mean, it looked like he just glued a bunch of crap on it. Looks terrible.
uh,
Absolutely terrible. Yeah.
everything's gold leaf now, but it's the saddest thing. This is obviously not as sad as them just wrecking a third of the White House, but like, there was an ivy which ivy I'm talking about in the Oval Office.
Yeah. I used to deal this ivy, a White House photo office.
Yeah,
We love this
you were
stuff.
my
We
White
used to
House
give
ivy
clips.
dealer,
Yeah.
and I've given like cuttings of that ivy to a bunch of friends and colleagues as well. And it's always like such a great story. Like this had been sitting in there since Kennedy. It was gifted by, I forget which country, Sweden. Was it Sweden?
I honestly, I can't
I
remember the
don't know.
exact story now,
Yeah,
but yeah. And Jackie put it in there. Yeah.
yeah. And now that whole mantle is pretty tacky looking for my. I mean,
Yeah, and he's got like models of planes and stuff like that. I
yeah,
will say my inclination, although I haven't looked into it, and I'm not against a good conspiracy, is that this is just him liking to build big ugly things that have his name on it. There's and will carry his name on, etc. And the fact that he's getting other people to pay for it is sort of uh, interesting messaging because it makes it harder to fight during the shutdown. And so I think it does go a long way with ordinary people where they're like, well, what do you care? He's having other people pay for this. And you're like, well, there's a lot of reasons why we'd actually rather
well, what
renovations
is
be
he
paid
paying for
for
all that
by the White
money?
House. But already conspiracy folks being like, now he's expanding a bunker so he can still be president when they try to kick him out and all of these things. And, you were asking me even before if I'd ever been in the bunker, which I haven't. Just be outside. But Jason, my colleague, did. So I'd recommend anyone who wants to see it. There is a White House video from our time in there. It's inside the bunker, and you can, see the board games that you get to play or whatever.
As you wait for the fallout to.
But what was interesting, and what I will say, and I'm not, stoking conspiracies or whatever, when they were doing some sort of routine repairs on the road that took forever between the West Wing and the Eisenhower Executive Office building, so the building that's right off to the other side, it went so deep and it was so crazy, and they were constructing it for so long. You were kind of like, what is going on down there exactly? So you never know. I wanted to give all of your listeners who are conspiracy theorists something to work with here, and that's whenever you're digging around stuff there, it goes deep. There's weird things going on. Obviously, they have to have all kinds of machines, devices, things, pings, pangs, pongs.
Well, I would say currently the conspiracy theory that I've been enjoying the most from an entertainment value perspective. I don't necessarily agree with it, but have you heard of this comet 3i Atlas that is interstellar? It's people are convinced that it's an alien mothership, and that part of all of this is in preparation for what is about to happen. On October 29th, it's going to be closest to the sun, and everybody's claiming we'll be able to tell then that it's some sort of machinery, not just a comet. So we'll see just a few days from now.
What would that have to do with the White House, though? You know what I mean?
People come up with all sorts of theories, but like some of the fun ones I found is that this is all they had to tear it down because there's special things that they're trying to get done quickly to the bunker to prepare for alien invasion. And the fastest way of doing that was not just knocking the whole thing down. So originally it was going to be done under cover of this ballroom, and then they had to adjust their plans because the imagery coming back that they haven't quite released yet indicates that it's
I will say in our own
imagination
imagination,
heading here.
In our own, we just don't think about this the right way. I don't understand this take us to your leader thing, because we're just very self-important that way about the American presidency kind of, because when we describe ourselves going to other planets in science fiction, we never look for their leader. Not once. So we're like, who's the prime minister of this planet? Nobody's nobody's looking for that, right? Either you start zapping or you make friends with whoever's the first person you meet, and assume that they're important, I think it'll probably be similar.
I think that if aliens did land on the White House lawn, they'd be like,
"This guy is the White House succession order. What's the if we blow up, if we blow up the State of the Union, which guy are we going to get for president? Agriculture secretary? Fuck, that's no good."
Well, you know what my favorite conspiracy theory involving the White House is, and you know what I'm talking about?
The DVDs,
the brain discs. Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
You were an agent of Pakistan, right?
I was looking for Pakistani intelligence, and that I would feed Obama information through discs that I put in his brain, and you can actually see the scar on his head when he gets his hair cut where I do so.
Did you
And I
ever
got a
joke
letter
with
about
the?
this in little tiny words, little tiny conspiracy handwriting is the best
That was,
handwriting. It's
I mean,
very
honestly,
neat.
like back then, there were some, they were more obscure. Now we live in an age of just nonstop because everything, no one trusts anything. Everything's a conspiracy theory now. I sort of miss those days. Not to get all nostalgic here, but like people really put extra time into an engaging.
I mean, also there's a big turnover in ideology. Like I think, because one of the things I found so interesting about just a couple conspiracies that I fell into, and I think that even Rev did a couple of times, was that we were in that kind of neo-Bircher anti-Catholic space, where it's like these
Mhm.
guys and the Pope and everybody, and you're like, and the Pope, like how do we get thrown in with them? Exactly. And now ultra conservatism has embraced Catholicism in such a strange way. You even see people converting from whatever kind of radical Protestant they were to being a kind of conservative doctrinaire. I can quote
Eh,
the council's Catholicism, that it does seem to be part of the conspiracy that's been swallowed by itself. They're like, nah, we're okay. We're down with this.
Maybe I feel like there's more power with the Protestant Christian nationalists than those folks that have gone like
I would say,
extreme.
I think you're seeing a lot of folks moving in that direction,
Yeah. I don't have a great
and
pulse on the numbers there, but to me it seems like the Christian nationalist Protestant movement's bigger. Is there a
tell
way
me
to
where the
quantify?
wind.
Hopefully, someone listening. I should get
Yeah, yeah, for
April
sure.
Joy back on, and we can all debate that.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I think that is the way the wind's blowing, and I find it very interesting.
well, when you used to feed President Obama these brain discs, like, why couldn't you put in like more public option, right? Like, keep fighting for public option. Like,
Now, the
like,
real question, like everything in the White House, is why was it still on disc? I'm always telling people, and then I have to figure out how old they are if they even think it's a funny story. That teleprompter computer used to take that floppy disks at the White House, like all the way
amazing. I
through
remember
my
those.
time
Yeah.
there. Yeah, we used to have the little hard ones. Luckily, not the big floppy ones, but
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, why disc? It should be tape, right? Like, this is vintage technology, brain control
it
technology.
was just the last technology before thumb drives, because
Yeah,
there was a big incident in the Bush White House with China and thumb drives, and so thumb drives were banned.
yeah, it makes sense.
I imagine all
So
this stuff is gone now.
I have been to the East Wing a couple times, and there's certainly memories. A wonderful one of my parents going with my dad, who's no longer with us, and my mom, and my wife Jess, like going and uh, just doing an East Wing tour many years ago, and that was under Obama, and then our
So
former
you
colleague.
went through the East Wing to the residence.
Yeah,
So you
yes.
probably spent not that much time in the East Wing. You're
No, yeah, but
basically
like all these people are
behind. Yeah.
posting like, "Oh my god, like that time, like for Christmas or Hanukkah party or
It's
and I
definitely, it's the front door for all the tours. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think of it, yeah, as like anticipation for something that was happening in the residence or whatever. So, like, as someone who works there, I might go out there and then wait online with my family or with friends who I'd invited or
yeah,
something, even though you don't need to, but it's fun. Like, you wait online with them and then, you're with them while they're checking in and stuff. I do think that um, this family waiting room, I used to really like it, or the what do they call it? They called it something. I'm trying to remember exactly. But that, like, before White House Seder or something, I remember like my kids crawling around it, kind of waiting,
but
and it's sort of this.
the famous photo of Claudia, your daughter Claudia,
That's in the red room.
that was in the
That's
red.
actually, yeah, that's actually in the residence. So that's what I mean. It's like this sort of anticipation of being there. Like you wouldn't see the first lady or the president in that room ever. That really is like a waiting room where you're going to be taken someplace else, most likely
Yeah,
upstairs. So it's not even like it's right next to something. Or little things where I'm jumping in for meetings is what when I think about the East Wing, it's like before a state dinner or something, there's like a big huddle up there, and it sort of just feels like White Housey stuff. You're like, getting around it. But a very special thing that I imagine is destroyed that's too bad is the First Lady's Garden, which is sort of the opposite of the Rose Garden, which, by the way, we didn't talk about. That is certainly not a positive upgrade over on that side. Like, I can find some use for the ballroom, but I'm like not sure who wanted a patio. That doesn't seem like anything anyone was looking for. And
really
actually,
ugly patio too. It's like they
yeah,
went
and
out.
green space is just better for the people breathing there and stuff, and probably keeps it cooler than, it's Washington, D.C. What do you need a big concrete like radiator for?
Agree.
Yeah, it's terrible. But there was another garden that's the First Lady's Garden, the other side, That's whatever, it's just sort of this neglected part of the White House. Every now and then I can remember doing a couple fun events over there that maybe Michelle led or something. But before that, this was the Victory Garden. This was the Victory Garden during World War II, um, from Eleanor Roosevelt's. And so that's sort of cool. And I remember they couldn't exactly figure out where it was. And I was making a little movie on the First Lady's Garden. And so we actually were working with the White House Historical Society, trying to figure out from pictures where it was. And finally figured out that, oh, this is where it was, because everyone was like, oh, Michelle Obama's growing vegetables has never been done before. And it was like, no, this has definitely been done before. There was a Victory Garden right here during the war.
And Michelle Obama's vegetable garden was quite controversial. There are always people, don't tell us, like, we got to eat more vegetables. Like, I remember the outrage over her telling people to eat vegetables.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's a message. It's a message versus messenger problem. I think people got a little out of control.
Well, so I'm a big fan of Eleanor Roosevelt, by the way. We haven't talked about this in a long time. Like, I used to work at the first data operation, Democratic Politics, National Committee for Effective Congress, NCEC, and just that was started by Eleanor Roosevelt. Like, I worked at a political committee that was started by Eleanor Roosevelt.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I always felt like that was just an honor to be a part of that history. And all of the amazing. Now, I don't want to go down this tangent too much because we could talk about Eleanor Roosevelt all day because she is definitely one of my favorite first ladies. But I do want to talk about what you used to call the Gudis bank shot or Keegan Gudis bank shot. I believe you used to credit me, but I noticed in your presentations you no longer do, which is okay because I didn't invent this. I appreciate the honor of being
because I'm not doing political advertising anymore. I'm now preaching all organic. That's why I don't talk about your advertising prowess as much as I used to.
Well, but like you can do this, and they're doing. I feel like the Trump world does this organically quite well too. I feel like almost everything from the East Wing to everything is happening. They just figure out what are things that will piss off the libs, right? Like that
rage
is the
baiting. Yeah, rage baiting. Yeah,
rage baiting. That's the proper scientific term. And to me, it's like the East Wing, East Colony destruction is just they probably didn't actually have to do it, but someone was like, it would really piss people off, and that seems to be a motivation because it's a great distraction.
I think the way they've done it is A, to piss people off, and B, to take advantage of the shutdown potentially. But I do think the reason for why is that Donald Trump wants a big, gaudy ballroom.
That's who he is at his core.
Named after him. Yeah. So like the look on our face that we hate it isn't as important as actually the look on his face that he's made something that he thinks is, lovely.
Two things can definitely be true. I think there are multiple good reasons.
Definitely, they've gone about it just in a typical way. Let's make people mad. But actually, I'm not them, and we're not here to be helping give them ideas. But like, you almost would want to build up a fight about this because then people aren't fighting about much, much, much more important things that are, more fundamental to our.
Well, one of those things I'm curious to see how it'll play out is, so SNAP benefits are about to run out. They to pay the military, there's an anonymous private donor that
was interesting. That anonymous private donor paying the military's wages, I did see. That did strike me as something interesting.
But in terms of making people mad, like in going back to history, like usually when people can't eat, that is a different type of anger that is beyond the typical like social media rage baiting strategy. So I'm curious, like, do you think anything will, like, it's just going to be distraction after distraction after distraction, or do you think that there is a chance now for some sort of real opposition to cement around that anger of like, things are bad here, like, and they're getting worse really quickly?
With the East Wing as a touch point for it, like, I don't think the East Wing is the press.
I'm saying that's a distraction. I'm just curious. Do you think they're just going to keep?
I do think that the constant flow, the energy, the as many things as possible is the strategy more than any particular one of those things. Yeah. Keep things moving, keep them moving. It's been working. It's not clear to me that it's working when it comes to sort of the shutdown messaging, where it does seem to be a model in which no one's really winning, like mysterious TikTok candidate 2028 is the one who is like benefiting from this,
Well, before we became famous for our work helping Senator Sanders, we were famous for Drunk Dial Congress, which some of you all may recall as what stopped the shutdown. Maybe I'm giving us too much credit here, but it certainly made an impact. And they did come up. They did figure out a deal after
Yeah, we
that.
did okay.
Uh,
In all honesty, we did okay with that one. Yeah.
yeah. And then another shutdown was to their credit, the flight attendants, right? Like they were like, we're gonna strike unless you work this out, and we're just gonna grind air travel to a halt. I'm curious. I can't predict the future. I sometimes try to. Like, is the moment that's coming up with people running out SNAP benefits, like people just actually not being able to feed themselves, going to finally create that moment, or are we just going to keep getting distraction soup from the
I
White
think
House?
we'll still get distraction too, but it doesn't mean that people won't crystallize around things that they feel in their own moment. I
Yeah,
think the danger in what you pose is that we have a situation in which Republicans are somehow able to basically just pit the hungry versus the sick. You know,
yeah.
even though everyone's both sick and hungry, it's like, well, let's make people fight about it. We only have so much to go around, and I think the shutdown seems like it might continue for some time because
No,
you
I
have
think it's going
one
to go.
side that's sort of like, well, this is interesting. This is better than normal potentially.
I would not be shocked if it continued into 2026. I just there's no off ramp for either side, and I don't
Is there
see.
enough money floating around for like Trump to pay vast swaths of the federal payroll, not just soldiers, so that he sort of heroically keeps the only thing that a lot of people care about going? That would be nuts. I mean, how much money was it to pay the military for the month?
130 million, I think. I could be
But that's
a
only
little
for
bit.
1 month, right? So then they're gonna need that. They're gonna need that next month too, right? Like, so it's gonna add up at some point.
Well, he
But
has been making a lot
people
of
are also
billionaire
rich.
friends a lot of money. I mean, he
But
has
these
a lot
people
of.
are rich. Like,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
very wealthy. $130 million when you're worth hundreds of billions is actually not that much money. I just think that um, there is ultimately they don't actually care that much about the government reopening because Trump kind of likes keeping it like I'll just pick and choose. I'll just call up a rich friend
Yeah,
or
I mean, there's more
these
executive
companies.
power when you are shutting everything else down. Like,
Yeah,
you're just enhancing executive power.
which is why I was torn. I mean, I agree. Like we should be mad and we should fight for the Obamacare subsidies. I don't like the fact that my healthcare is going up. No one is going to like that. And it's going to be more and more clear that this is because of the
But the
Republicans.
shutdown itself isn't the thing, right? It's like you want to coordinate that with then some kind of online and offline campaign where people know what it is. There's something catchy.
Well, we
There's
never do
maybe
that well, our side.
crowds in front of, airports, like yelling at people as they come home, go back to
No, I hear
Washington.
that. So what I'm saying is like I just it's like strategically I don't like everybody loses and eventually everyone but Trump because he's going to just keep the government closed. Many will suffer. He's going to pick and choose which things he wants to fund with private donors. And what are we going to do like in that situation? Well,
Right. So
people
we
in
have Democrats. So we have Democrats in the Senate and in the House, sort of, ostensibly holding the government hostage over healthcare, which
well,
maybe they
yeah, the House
should.
doesn't even they won't even come to work. Like they're like we're just going to say
Which maybe they should. But then on the other side, you have the kind of movement, and other folks are sort of clearly just not aligned with that, because then you have an anti-autocracy protest, and
yep.
you're like, well, those are two different things, that aren't necessarily gelling together to tell a coherent story in this moment.
It's going to be a rough holiday season here in America. You should be lucky to be in Europe. Hopefully, things will go more smoothly in Germany, wherever else you
Things,
travel.
yeah. P.S. Things are not going smoothly in Germany or anywhere else, or anywhere else that I travel. We'll see about the Netherlands. It might be closer than I thought. I'm starting to feel a little better about
That's good. When's the election?
it. Wednesday.
Oh, wow. Well, speaking of upcoming elections that are giving me hope, the New York City mayoral election.
Yes, finally. Yeah, got a
We
time.
we have. I was just in New York, and I was with some old college friends, and I was hanging out in parts of New York and going to establishments I don't normally do because my friend was quite successful selling a company and wanted to take us out. Long time, since we'd all hung out, and I was focus grouping wealthier New Yorkers on the mayoral election, and all of them were very excited about Mamdani and the new era that's coming into New York. And I asked all of them, are you, if he taxes you more, are you leaving New York? Absolutely not. We love the city. We think that like free buses is a good idea. It was like, despite what like Cuomo's folks would want you to hear, there were a lot of folks with means greater than myself that I was talking to that were really excited about the new chapter.
Would like to live in a city that actually functions as a city. Yeah. I mean, I think this is why he's going to win, is that he does have a multiracial, multi-class coalition of people from everywhere, and that is the model. It's sort of, to me, God, this is going to sound dismissive, and I don't want to be, because it's like, the only exciting campaign I don't think anyone cares about, but it's almost like a Coen Brothers movie where like,
I know how you feel about the Coen brothers.
yeah, it's good, but like that's as good as every movie should be. Like every campaign should be like a Zoran Mamdani campaign, where the candidate is maybe not as ridiculously cute as Zoran is, with that smile that just lights up the avenue, but every candidate should be disciplined and kind and and doing things. Every campaign should run lots of organic vertical video with proxy accounts, buttressed by smart advertising decisions, with a field campaign that's actually digitally understood and driven. Everybody should be doing that stuff, and we're winning a lot more elections. And you say, yeah, of course, why do you even bring it up? Well, because the Harris campaign didn't do those things. We all know those are the things that work, and they spent more money on TV than anyone had ever spent before, and we don't kind of talk about that enough, where it was like, what the hell tactically was happening? Forget all the other things.
Zoran is actually, it's interesting because like Zoran's spending a lot on TV because they're like, oh, well, we don't need to spend
because it costs a lot.
Yeah.
For them, it's like every day's a Super Bowl, right? So they had that. So it's interesting, right? So that's what I mean. They are also like spending a significant amount of their money on TV because they have to, and on radio. And the TV ad from we'll have to take a look, and I'm sure it's probably already out. I don't think I've seen the closing argument, but the primary closing argument was really nice. It had the attitude of the kind of other videos, but in a proper TV format. It's the kind of agency who did the interesting design stuff, not the kind of fun younger ones. I think we think of this campaign as a sort of, it's actually a lot of people who are doing the right thing, all working together for a candidate that they admire. Let's do that.
I liked the primary closing argument. Did you watch the intro? I thought it was weird because they didn't feature him that much in the intro video that they did for Zoran on TV. And we actually know.
No, I don't. Yeah. It's different people, little vignettes, and it has the.
Yeah, but I'm like, you're not like your
urban writing.
Yeah. One of our former colleagues from Bernie, helped produce that, so I'm not going to trash him too much without inviting him on to defend. But if you're listening, I just thought the primary one, the closer was much better than the opener. I'm excited to see what they close with here.
I would agree.
But have you been following another race here? I know you're focused much more in Europe, but the Maine Senate race, Plattner.
I did see the Janet Mills oppo dump on. Yeah, we like Democrat on Democrat oppo dumps. That's for sure a healthy thing for a party to do.
Well, to me, it's a great case study on how old tactics aren't working well in this new media environment, because everybody, I think it's making him more popular. He said some awful things.
It seems to be. Even in some ways where you're like, yeah, F the establishment, this feels good. And then sometimes I'm like, well, everyone doesn't need to go to a tattoo parlor and blindly get whatever they offer you, okay? Let's all maybe take a step back and say, bad judgment was used here. In a rush to sort of be against that, people are saying some things where I'm like, hey, everybody slow down. Yeah. We can all do with less white supremacy in our lives, and there's proactive steps we can take about that.
Well, I thought was refreshing is he seemed to be like, yeah, it was pretty dumb, and I said things I regret. He was just like, in an age where the common tactic is never apologize, right? And that works so well
moving forward. Yeah.
So it's it'll be interesting because it's and maybe there's more out there that they've dug up. Clearly, their self research on that campaign was not very good because they didn't seem to be very prepared for it, or they just didn't do it. But
I think they maybe just didn't do it.
Yeah, they just raised a bunch of money, or holy shit, things are going great. What could possibly go wrong? And then the evil establishment villains came in with their oppo dump.
No, but I mean the casualness with which an established campaign like Governor Mills will just try to bomb somebody's life, to like win a primary is like not
That's
my favorite thing that I've seen Democrats do.
You sadly have firsthand experience. We all do
Yeah,
of that,
exactly.
and
Yeah, yeah.
and
And
we're
they
just
think
not that
it's
good
for a
at it.
good
And
cause,
my point to
and
our
it
listeners:
doesn't work, and it doesn't
doesn't
work.
work. It
Yeah,
makes people sad and it hurts people, and it doesn't actually work.
no.
Especially in primaries, it just yeah. Uh, well, Arun, I really appreciate you joining me today to talk about everything. Let's go back to the Rose Garden because we didn't talk about that enough. I want to close out. Can you share any fond memories you have of the Rose Garden? I'm
I
putting you
mean,
on
I
the
will
spot.
say when you're walking around like those areas, that's where you're like just intensely aware that you're like in the White House. It's not just like the place that you work. You're always sort of like, on theater or whatever. One time I also helped President Obama get out of doing a bunch of television ad crap it didn't want to do with Jim Margolis, I think it was, from one of those agencies.
Yeah,
And he was like, how can I not like spend any time with those guys? And I said, the Rose Garden is great because you've got 4 different angles. You've got coming out of your office, you got going down the colonnade, you got in the garden, and you got out coming out of the garden. And just say, I'm Barack Obama and I approve this message from all 4 of those directions, and then I think you'll be fine. And I think that's what they ended up doing, actually, because all of the ones that year are him on the Rose Garden. That was, yeah, it was a very good strategic use of the angles of the Rose Garden.
what
But
did it
now
get?
it's just one big patio. Before that, they had like the beer summit like section. There was a
Um,
table, one table
yeah, wow,
that you could go over and hang out at if you needed to, and people did. People did use it, but
that's a
otherwise,
cheap cut.
it was, I think, just much much better to have this as a open grass area, just like for the ecology of it all.
No, and it's just like there is always this like Marie Antoinette vibe that they like love. Like, they don't seem to care. It's not. I don't know if it's just that they can't see how they look, but it's like, let's pave over this beautiful garden so our like rich buddies can come by more often and enjoy the fall crisp air and like eat caviar while everybody
There
else
was like a
starves.
groundhog or a gopher or something that lived like around there too. I wonder if it like ran away because of like the paving over, or if it's actually trapped down there, knocking up, trying to get.
I'm having a Caddyshack moment now where he's like,
Yeah, no, it was something like this. Yeah, yeah.
the Rose Garden gopher. Well, I hope that it found a better place, and it can like at least eat some of the fancy appetizers they serve.
I will say, if you want a good White House anecdote to close this out, and if you want to put the thing in the beginning, at the end, that should be maybe this would even suit the bill, and you can get rid of the Holland thing or whatever you want to do. But the only 2 times I ever had to have my footage reviewed by authorities, I won't say which authorities because they're different authorities, at the White House was because of 2 acts of criminality. One was the Slahis. You remember them?
Mm.
They were reality TV stars, Real
Oh yeah,
Housewives of DC, Virginia, DC,
yeah,
and they talked their way into the Indian state dinner, and all of our footage and photos had to
yeah.
reviewed to see exactly
Yeah,
who they talked to, who they didn't talk to. The answer, I think, turned out to be Biden. Like they got as far up as Biden, which is pretty high up. He was vice
yeah.
president, but not up to Obama. And then the other one was vegetables were disappearing from the garden, and I had set up a time lapse camera that was always constantly
Was it the
clicking
gopher?
away, and they caught whatever it was: weasel, marmot, gopher, mongoose. It was something, but they
Wow.
got they got the glow, they got the eyes. It was like, we got you, yeah. And then it also turned out we'd gotten the president on that camera a couple times down there, which meant that then those photos had to be processed through a different, legal thing.
Was he just
This
going to get a
president,
snack?
he was just probably showing people down there or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, no, he was great. He was the one who was stealing the vegetables. Yeah, yeah, that would totally be
It was
him too.
President Obama
Like
all along.
President Obama's criminality would be stealing vegetables. You know what I mean? That would 100% be it. Yeah, and then those had to get processed with like Pete Sousa's pictures and everything because it was like officially a photo of the president. So I actually was not just the videographer; I was officially a White House photographer at least in those 6 frames.
I will just say that, you remind me in terms of Obama's criminality. It's like, I know it's part of getting older and being nostalgic for the past, but man, like I do miss times when like it was like everybody in the Obama administration had one mission. It's like don't fuck it up, right? Like it's the first black president. Let's
I mean,
not
he expressly gave us
yeah.
that as the mission.
But for many people,
times.
right? Like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like do everything on the
You're
up
like,
and up,
guys,
and like
just
that has
don't.
not
Yeah.
once ever been said in the Trump administration. Let's do this on the up and up. Let's make sure we do everything the right legal way. They don't give a fuck about the law. They don't give a fuck about like whether they piss people off or not. They're like, it's like it's a scandal magnet on their side versus Trump was like, we need no scandals. And it was a great time. Just, I mean, I know some people probably have other thoughts on bad times.
I mean, sorry to say it, but my thought on that is that plus 350 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you know?
I know. You're not wrong on that, but I just want to say that I miss that feeling. And that's what I'm going to hold on to. Those memories.
Hooked on a feeling, high on believing.
Hooked on a feeling. Those memories, 2009, everything was possible. We were going to get universal health care. We were going to win it
Prime
all,
Fortnite, as my son Leo would say. Prime Fortnite.
Prime Fortnite, exactly. Well, that's a great note to end it on. Good luck in the Netherlands election, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, we'll let you know how it goes. Talk soon.
Awesome. Take care. Hey, everyone, it's Keegan again. I wouldn't be surprised if Arun did not make it to the end of this recording. Hopefully he didn't, because I wanted to share with you all that he has a very special birthday coming up on November 6th. Arun Chaudhary turns 50 years old, which is amazing to me for many, many reasons. But the biggest one I'm going to share with you here is that almost 10 years ago, we had a pretty epic party celebrating Arun's 40th birthday. Revolution Messaging back then was at its heyday. This was in peak Bernie time. And, we had a pretty amazing party that both Arun and I were reminiscing about after the recording. And while I can't be in Germany with him to celebrate 50, I am hoping that you all will send him a note and tag him on social media and thank him for all the work he's done, because there's many things that you're both aware and not aware of that has been pretty remarkable that Arun has contributed to in progressive politics all around the world. So Arun, happy birthday. I hope you have a great time with your family. I wish you were there. And hopefully for 51, we can throw a party again. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. Stay safe.